Ah! If there was a burger Jedi, it would be Kenji López-Alt. The award-winning author and internet food legend has conducted hundreds of breakthrough experiments on his influential blog, The Burger Lab. Today, we're on a mission to debunk some of the most prevailing burger myths around, and to learn some eye-opening techniques that will lead to a better, more delicious burger. My entire career, I've been taught certain things, right?
Right.
And then I read your blog, and you just say the complete opposite.
And every once in a while you find, hey, like this thing that everybody's doing all the time, like actually, if you actually test it side by side, it turns out that it's not the best way to do things.
That's what makes you unique. You take a scientific approach and then you document it. So it's kind of like for all of the haters out there, these are my notes. You just go against the grain and you prove it, right?
You always want to cut against the grain. Today what we're going to make actually is hopefully different from any other burger you've done on the show before. I call it the best burger for a single person because you can literally only make one at a time. It doesn't work if you try to make too many. And in the process, I think we're going to try and debunk a few burger myths, things people say you always have to do.
And there's a ton.
And we'll explain why you shouldn't.
This is like a Jedi Yoda moment.
Do I get to ride on your back here? What you'll hear a lot of people say is that chuck, which comes from the shoulder of the steer, is the best meat for burgers.
Yeah.
Chuck is a very good sort of all-in-one meat. It makes it easy. Like it has, chuck is one of these muscles that works hard throughout the steer's life. It has a lot of good marbling, a lot of fat, a lot of flavor development. But if you think of a burger as like a nice blended whiskey or a nice blended wine, you want to take different elements and make sure that the flavors between them are balanced as you blend them. What we got here is brisket. What we got over here is sirloin, and then right here we got short rib. So let's taste some of these burger varietals. I say we start with the chuck, which is the one that you're probably most used to eating and is going to have that sort of balance. And that tastes like a pretty classic burger.
Well.
All right, let's move on to the short rib here. There's a lot of richness, but not too much depth. It's like it feels like all like.
It's very rich.
Yeah, it's like sort of like EDM. It's just it's got that like bass pumping, but there's nothing much above it.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the brisket. Do you get like a sort of like a sourness to it?
Yeah.
People describe it, I think, as like serum flavor, like blood.
Minerally.
Yeah. And now let's taste some top sirloin here.
Sirloin. Yeah, so you can't just do a burger like that.
No, dry.
Yeah.
So where brisket, I think, has this sort of crumbly texture, sirloin binds better. It stays more tender as it cooks.
Feel, yeah.
Yeah. So what I like to do is I like to combine about 50% sirloin, just to have that sort of like blank canvas and that tenderness, along with about 25% brisket and 25% short rib.
It makes so much sense. We're using relatively cheap cuts of meat.
Right.
We're not using Wagyu.
It's a burger.
Yeah, it's a burger. Burger should be, it's ground beef.
Yeah, it's the most democratic food in the world. We're just gonna cube this up, nice inch to inch and a half chunks. So what we're doing is we're cutting it into cubes and we're tossing all the cubes together into a bowl so that when we grind them, everything's sort of evenly mixed together. One thing you might be asking is, when should we put the salt into the? Obviously, you need salt in a burger to make it taste good.
Been debated for the longest time.
It is. It's a big point of contention.
I think someone in the 50s or 60s was like, this is the point you salt it.
Exactly. So a lot of people will tell you, put salt in right now. I think this is a big mistake. I have 2 burger patties. One of them was made with beef that was salted, and the other one was made with beef that was unsalted. So we're going to do a quick little experiment. For that, I think we should probably head outside. I have here 2 burger patties, identical except for the fact that in one of them the salt was mixed into the meat, and in the other one the salt is only on the exterior. Both of them are cooked. Cool. So now I want you to hold that tray there. So I'm going to throw first. This is the patty that is salted only on the exterior. Ready?
You got it.
Oh.
Did you hit my nards?
Okay, so you
I didn't
saw
feel it.
that was the unsalted burger. The burger that was only salted in the exterior, and you saw, I mean, it fell apart just from the force of me throwing it before it even got anywhere near you.
Right.
And that's what you want in a burger. At least that's what I want in a burger. I want it to be really so tender that it just basically just falls apart in your mouth, like barely held together. Now I'm gonna show you what happens if you salt your meat before grinding it, or before forming the patties. Ready?
You eat that, people.
It gets this sort of rubbery texture, which is in a sausage a good thing. That sort of rubbery snap that you get in a sausage, but not really what you want in a burger.
Don't salt your patties before you grind it.
But do assault your friends with burger patties.
You just threw a burger patty at me.
Yeah, I think you're.
I mean, I'm pretty clean.
Yeah.
We're good. Now let's get to grinding the meat.
Actually. All right, I think that's plenty for what we're doing. The next myth we're going to talk about is that your burgers need to be formed and shaped in a very specific way. And you know, for this burger, we're actually going to not really form it at all. Rather than picking up the meat and forming it into patties, all we're going to do is kind of gently shape it into a patty like this.
Super lightly.
What I like to say is that once the beef has been ground, we never pick up the beef again with human hands. The goal that we're going for here is maximum surface area for crispness and browning, and that's really why we don't want to press it flat, because you know, the smoother a surface is, the less surface area to volume ratio you're going to have, and so the more nooks and crannies you have, it's like an English muffin. The more nooks and crannies you have, the crispier and better texture you're going to get.
Everything.
Exactly. So for you burger makers at home, the key thing to remember is you want to handle your meat as little as possible. My two basic toppings on a burger, I don't know what yours are. If I had to pick just two toppings, it would be pickles and onions.
Agreed.
Tomatoes when they're in season, and if it's gonna be lettuce, for me, it needs to be shredded iceberg. All right, so we got our lettuce, we got our tomato. Now we're gonna go into this onion. Now, if you look at an onion, there's two different ways you can cut it. If you imagine this is a planet, and it's rotating around this axis, we can cut it orbitally, which is the way like a satellite would orbit around it,
or
the rings would go around it. Yeah, and you'll get onion rings, or you can cut it from pole to pole. It actually makes a pretty significant difference which direction you cut it. And the reason for that is because onion cells are not symmetrical. They're sort of elongated in one direction. I happen to have this prop ready. So imagine this. When you were a kid, did you have like a microscope?
Yeah.
Did you ever look at onions under it?
I did.
And you see, it looks, I mean, almost like this. It has these like sort of elongated cells, and those cells run this way. They run from pole to pole. So the cells are much longer that way than they are the other way. And the thing about onions and other alliums is that that sort of pungent flavor, the thing that makes you cry, the thing that gives you that pungent flavor in your nose. Those chemicals, they don't exist in a raw onion. What happens is when you cut open onion cells, there's these precursor chemicals that come out and they interact with each other, and then they form these sort of pungent aromas after slicing. So the more cells you break in an onion, the more...
it'll make you cry.
Exactly. The more it'll make you cry, the more of those bad flavors you'll get.
It takes all that stuff out and puts it in the air.
Exactly. Imagine you're slicing this onion pole to pole.
I was doing it like this.
Yeah, just go down. There we go. So if you're slicing it that way, you're essentially just cutting like a single row of cells. And so right now you've released about, whatever, 1 cell's worth, maybe 2 cells worth of stuff in this little section. But if you're cutting across the equator, yeah, you're cutting all those cells. And that's exactly what happens when you cut an onion across the equator. So all this stuff gets released, you get a much stronger pungency by cutting it across the cells.
That's so cool, man.
So I got here tiny little skillet, so essentially about the same size as the burger.
Right, and this is planned. You want a small
I want
skillet.
that, and this is precisely why a burger like this is ideal for people at home by themselves. Not great for a restaurant, not great if you're cooking for a crowd, because you really need that single, you need to cook it one at a time. It needs to be in a small skillet, and I'll show you why. So we'll put a little oil in the pan.
Salt. This is kosher salt.
After this meat has been ground, we have not picked it up with our bare hands. We haven't seasoned it, and we have not picked it up with our bare hands. Carefully flip it over. Spatula only, no hands.
Carefully.
So we got our pan kind of smoking hot here. It's at around 400 degrees right now. We're gonna take our burger patty. As it cooks, fat's gonna render out of it, and it's gonna sort of start to fill the pan a little bit, and so it's like deep frying in its own fat. So you get all that extra flavor, you get all that crispiness. If you did this on a flat top or a bigger pan, all that fat just drains away.
How long do you say per side?
About a minute. Yeah, we're this side is pretty much done.
You can tell it's loose, it's crumbly.
Yeah, and you can see all these little bits of brown beef that are sort of fried in their own fat. I'm going to put the onions directly on here so that they have a little bit of a chance to steam.
This is going to keep it all together.
Exactly. What I'm doing right now, I'm just going to lay a little towel over this so that it's sort of
steams.
Yeah, exactly. Just to soften up that bun a little bit, trap in some of that onion.
In Jersey, they use a piece of parchment paper. They kind of make a tent.
Okay, so now we're ready to assemble. I'm going to put a little mayo down there.
That's hot. It's nice.
As opposed to toppings, I'm more of a bottomings type of guy, so I like to put my little bed of lettuce.
And this is for like tectonic shifts, right? Like,
exactly, yeah. It's to keep everything stable.
Oh, you can see the crust on there. The cheese is melted. Oh, baby.
You can see these edges, right? Like, that looks completely different from like a smash burger.
Oh,
but
yeah.
how many nooks and crannies there are and just like sort of the roughness of it.
Cheers, man.
You taste how juicy it is. So this is a well done burger.
Yeah.
There's not a hint of pink in it, but because of the method of cooking, like it comes out super, super juicy.
There's so much texture going on. Like it's super crispy. Man, it's like a burger like croissant with like the flakiness of the beef.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's a solid burger, dude. Solid burger.
Thanks. There's a lot of like so-called hard and fast rules about cooking anything, cooking burgers. But yeah, you know, sometimes breaking the rules gets you to really delicious results.
Yeah, this proves culinary school and half the books I've read wrong. The burger force is really with you.
Well, thanks.
Thanks, dude. I appreciate it.
What's your midichlorian count?
What's up, Burger World? It's Alvin Kylon of The Burger Show. Smash that like button, hit that subscribe button. If not for me, for the segue.